Let's bring in Congressman Ted Lieu. He's a Democrat from California. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us as the president gets ready to address his supporters at this huge crowd out in Nevada. I want to show our viewers something you tweeted this week after you read excerpts from Bob Woodward's brand new book about the president. To be precise, this is in reaction to reading that the president actually knew how dangerous and contagious the coronavirus was long before he acknowledged that publicly. And among other things, you write this. I'll put it up on the screen. This is the height of condescension. Donald Trump didn't trust Americans to act in our best interests if we knew the truth, so he lied to us. But it's even worse. The president took actions that he knew would result in many more deaths, essentially reckless homicide, close quote. Congressman, clearly you feel very strongly about what you read in the book. What do you make of the president's explanation for what he did, that he simply didn't want to start a panic in this country?
Thank you, Wolf, for your question. Let me first say my heart goes out to all the wildfire victims on the West Coast, including California, and to brave first responders who are risking their lives to contain these fires. And regarding your question, what Donald Trump did was not just a dereliction of duty. It was much more sinister. He took actions to downplay this virus, and he lied to the American people to downplay this virus. And you can draw a straight line between his words and actions and tens of thousands of preventable American deaths. And even now, he's doing this super spreader event in Nevada. Donald Trump is, in fact, increasing number of cases and increasing number of preventable deaths in America. It shows how unfit he is for office.
Anything members of Congress like you can do about that?
So there is an election in 50-some days. The American people can make a decision as to whether they want to keep him in office or not. But it's very clear the United States is the worst country in the world when it comes to containing this virus and the large number of deaths. If we had a Joe Biden administration, a lot less people would have died.
You sit on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You're on the Judiciary Committee as well. Tell our viewers how you're treating allegations that several countries, among them Russia, Iran, and China, are actively trying to interfere in the U.S. election system and impact the outcome. Microsoft this week echoed those warnings from the U.S. intelligence community. What is Congress doing to expose and combat what potentially could be a very serious cyber attack?
That's a great question. So the public reporting is that Iran and China and Russia are not actually the same in terms of election interference. Only one country is actively engaged in election interference, and that is Russia. And so we know that Russia interfered in our elections in 2016. They're doing that again in 2020, and so we have to fight back. And what it also shows is that any report that will come out from John Durham or Bill Barr before November 3rd about the Russia investigation needs to be looked at with a grain of salt, because it's very clear that Russia, in fact, did attack our elections in 2016 and are actively doing so right now.
Well, the U.S. intelligence community, in their public document, they did say that Russia, China, and Iran are interfering, but in different ways. They said the Russians are doing what they're doing to try to help Donald Trump get reelected. The Chinese would prefer Biden to be president. The Iranians simply want to sow as much political dissent and chaos in the United States as possible. In fact, all three of them want to sow political dissent. Do you buy that intelligence assessment?
So again, it shows that China has a preference, but what it shows is Russia is actively engaging in measures to interfere in our elections. And so we absolutely have to fight back. It's very disturbing that you have, for example, Rudy Giuliani that's interacting with a known Russian agent. And we simply need the members of the Trump campaign to stop acting with Russian agents.
Because you bring up what the U.S. government officially did this week, labeling a Ukrainian politician as an active Russian agent. This is a man who has close ties to Rudy Giuliani and has already been singled out for his work trying to weaken the campaign of Joe Biden. How much deeper than this one man do you believe that overseas interference in the U.S. election goes?
We know that Russia engaged in a sweeping and systematic attack against our elections in 2016. I have no doubt in my mind they're simply going to try that again. On social media, a lot of bots are run by the Russians, and they continue to try to sow dissension and try to trick American people into believing that what they're reading on social media is actually from an American instead of from the Kremlin. And so I urge people to view social media posts with great caution and to make sure that if they're going to vote by mail, that they request a mail-in ballot early and vote early. And if they're going to vote in line, then they make a plan to make sure that they vote knowing that there could be long lines on Election Day.
And they make sure they do it safely, social distancing, wearing a mask, and all of that. It's going to be hard for especially older Americans to wait in long lines under this coronavirus pandemic, and certain Americans with underlying health conditions as well. That's why so many people want to vote by mail. Let's turn to the horrible fires that are going on right now. The people in your state, California, are going through a nightmare right now. Historic wildfires have already destroyed, almost 5 million acres of land. At least 19 people in California have already died. The president will visit California on Monday. Your governor, fellow Democrat Gavin Newsom, says the debate over climate change is over. He says simply look at what's going on in California, Oregon, Washington State, Colorado, Nevada, other states out west. You've introduced some strong climate change legislation in Congress. Is Governor Newsom right? What do you think?
Gavin Newsom is absolutely right. We know that decades ago, scientists predicted that with climate change, we would see more extreme weather events, including more wildfires. And we're seeing that play out not just this year, but year after year. I know that in my district, we previously had the Woolsey fire that was enormously destructive. And now we have all these wildfires, not just in California, but also in places like Oregon. And if we don't do strong action to mitigate climate change, this problem is going to get worse every single year.
We got to go, Congressman, but you're in L.A. Is it hard to breathe when you go out of your house?
It was yesterday. It is a little better today.
Well, good luck. Be careful out there. We'll see you back here in Washington. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
Congressman Ted Lieu of California.